Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno, and direct from New Jersey, Metal Walt.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's enjoying this brisk fall that's going on up here in the north. Wherever you're located, I hope everyone's happy and healthy. Tonight, we got a return guest to the show, Chris Impellitteri. You may recall a couple years ago, this guitar god was on promoting his Complete Beast box set, the anthology of Chris's solo work. Well, tonight he's here to talk about his brand new album, War Machine, drops tomorrow, November 8th. Let's see. On this one, Chris is back with his lead singer Rob Rock's killer vocal range, bassist James Pulley, but this time around he has former Slayer drummer Paul Bostaph on drums. In this discussion, Chris opens up about his band's evolution, collaborating with Bostaph, and the passion behind Impellitteri's signature sound. Dude's a shredder. Great dude. This album kicks ass. We discuss the themes of resilience behind tracks like Just Another Day, why War Machine strikes a chord with fans, crafting the Hell on Earth track that was designated and created just about Bostaph's drumming. It's a killer song. Let's see. We also discussed the lasting legacy of Impellitteri's music and how classic rock and metal influences has led to some purposely crafted songs on here, like Out of My Mind and Light It Up. It's a great discussion. I'm sure you'll get into it. But before we dive into that, let's head over to the metalmayhemroc.com website. Have you sign up for the newsletter to stay up to date on new episodes, interviews, reviews, and notifications for our live radio show on Monday night that I do on Metal Devastation Radio. And don't miss out on all our new merch. We have a kick-ass merch page, brand new hoodies, winter hats, shirts, posters, phone cases, coffee tumblers. It's all up there. So the one-stop shopping, metalmayhemroc.com. If you've missed some recent episodes, last week we had Chris Herron's latest project, Hidden in Plain Sight. 2 weeks ago, we did a review of our time in New York City at the Alex Van Halen book signing recap. Midnight Devils a few weeks before that. Bobby Blitz from Overkill and Jarvis Latherby stopped in to talk about the King Diamond tour. So it's all up there at the website. If you like what we're doing here, do us a favor, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it on future shows. All right, that's about it. So let's get ready as Chris Impellitteri takes us inside War Machine, his latest and greatest, out tomorrow, November 8th. For my co-host, Metal Walt, I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
So today we welcome back to Metal Mayhem ROC Chris Impellitteri, founder and guitarist of the power metal band Impellitteri. Chris, welcome back to Metal Mayhem ROC.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Well, it's as you mentioned before we got on the air, it's 7 a.m. in California. So you got your cup of coffee. Looks like a bright, beautiful day. And hopefully you got a good day ahead. We do an interview. Maybe the band goes into rehearsal. Maybe you're writing some new tracks, whatever it might be, right?
Exactly. And it is a beautiful day. And I will be in the recording studio in probably about an hour and a half. So, yes.
Wow. What's that? Is this more Impellitteri? Is this a new video? Yeah. Is it something else?
We're actually all the above, believe it or not. Yeah. On release day, there's going to be another music video that will come out. So we're working on that right now. A lot of stuff going on, which is good. I'm happy.
Okay. That's great. Well, sorry, we'll hold off until we get into the album. So again, last time we had you on, it was probably 2 years ago or more. You were promoting your Complete Beast 1987 to 2009 box set. So we were talking about your back history. But today, we're here to talk about War Machine, the new studio album. It's a great one. I want to go through the tracks. We've been spinning it all the time, including on our day night radio show. But let's talk about the lineup. Like, again, you're with your fixtures, Rob Rock and James Pulley, but you have a new drummer this time, Paul Bostaph, who's best known, for Slayer and others. So how did he come into the fold, and how has been working with him so far?
Okay. Well, I think it was myself, Rob Rock, and our bassist, James Pulley. As we started writing the record, right, and accumulating all these songs that we thought were valid that should definitely make the record, we started to think about who we wanted to play drums on the record, right? And we had like a handful of name guys, all great players, but Paul kept, going to the top of the list. And I remember hearing Paul years ago, not in Slayer, but it was actually in a band I believe called Testament. I remember hearing a record he did with them, really liking it. So anyways, we have a friend of ours that was managing the band, helping us out. And I said, hey, can you reach out to Paul and see if he'd be interested in talking about working with us on the record? So he reached out, and evidently Paul really liked Impellitteri. He knew of us because I guess he was in a band called Forbidden that was on a subsidiary to our label. And we were on this label called Relativity through Sony in like 87 or 88. And I guess Paul was in a band, Forbidden, that was on the subsidiary label. So he was really well known or well versed with Impellitteri, right? And he liked the band a lot. So it didn't take much coaxing. We basically had a call, and that was it. He was in. So now the next thing was, okay, let's have him learn all the music. Let's get together. Let's work out all the parts, rehearse it, and then go into the real big recording studio and record it and see if we have chemistry as a band. And I'll tell you, as soon as Paul started playing, we all had a happy grin on our face. We're like, oh my God, he's the perfect fit for this. Now Impellitteri is definitely the band like Spinal Tap. We've had a rotating chair of drummers, right? And we probably always will. So, but Paul basically did the entire record, done all the music videos with us. Matter of fact, he just sent me an email yesterday or day before, and he goes, hey man, he goes, I'm free, I'll tour, so, but of course he's also extremely busy right now with Kerry King's thing. It's really Paul and Kerry and this other guy. So they've got a pretty heavy schedule. We'll have to see if we can make that work. But anyways, that's how Paul got involved in this. And, he's 25% of this record, and he kicked ass on this record. I mean, it could be his best playing.
Oh, he definitely did, because I mean, you guys are always synonymous for fast and heavy melodic power metal with great, guitar riffs and solos. But this brings a bit of a more, let's say, metal feel to it. But again, the album, end to end, it's 11 tracks, amazing guitar work from yourself, and of course Rob with his soaring vocals. But like for example, this is always one of my questions or my thoughts. Is for an artist such as you've had a long career, you've been working with Rob forever, it seems like, back to the 80s. So, like, being honest, tell us, like, when it comes time to make a new album, like, do you, like how does it work where you guys are like, all right, we have to honor the Impellitteri sound, but we need to keep it fresh, and so that we're not bored on the sidelines, but we got an obligation to the record company. We got to put an album out every 2 years. Like, what, like, sparks the fire in you guys to keep doing this in a sense?
The love for music. It's really that simple. It's not about money. It's not about trying to be popular or famous. The whole thing is the fact that we love expressing ourselves musically. I can speak for myself, obviously, and as a guitar player, I look at the instrument as an extension of me. Right. And I, like anybody, myself, everybody probably, watching or hearing this, we're all human beings, and we all have emotional content in our lives. And the instrument allows me to express those emotions. Right. And it always has. And so that motivates me. It's like, I don't know, for an artist, it's like I get to wake up every day and there's a blank canvas, and I get to create. And that outlet is really therapeutic. It's always been that way for me. Right. And Rob, I think it's the same thing. I mean, I know he loves music. James loves music. Paul, I'll speak for him on this. He's obsessed with music. So, I think that's the driving motivational factor. It's really for the love of this. And it's given us a great outlet and a great life.
Yeah. And again, I'm picking up on your point there. Obviously every album is written and recorded at a different time in your personal life. There's always the state of the world that's happening at the time. I mean, and obviously on this album, you cover a lot of the present state of the world and the current trends. But before we get into the tracks, I like to look at the album cover and say, well, how does that relate to the tracks themselves? And you kind of, just big graphic, cool, almost sci-fi kind of feel to it. It's a battleship sort of on the seas. And yet there's this robot sea monster that could maybe be construed as the monster of artificial intelligence or ChatGPT, right? But maybe first talk a little bit about what you guys are going for on that album image.
Well, the album image is really to express conflict, right? The desire to survive, right? And obviously in War Machine, I think the one thing I should probably explain before I even go down that road is to explain what is War Machine, right? Now, a lot of people have been asking me because the state of the world is somewhat dark. A lot of countries fighting with one another. We've got Russia, Ukraine, now North Korea is getting involved, and you got China, who's an adversary, so there's a lot of hostility and tension. And it's like, we always feel like we're on the brink of war. And a lot of people thought that's what the record was about, but it's really not. War Machine, by the way, is really about the band Impellitteri. And it's really, that cover kind of depicts our career. We've never been embraced by the mass media. We've always been, what's that term they use? Is it called black sheep, where you're kind of an outcast? Yeah. In some ways, I feel like we're kind of like the unwelcome stepchildren. Stepfather tolerates us, but we're kind of an annoyance. And so with us, with the band, we've had to fight for every ounce of respect and dignity. This career, as far as now, the career part, the music thing, we've gotten lucky because we've hit it out of the park in some countries where it gave us a life financially, like Japan. But having said that, everywhere else, it's a constant fight. And a great example is this. We'll put a record out like War Machine, and virtually everybody we've talked to and the fans and the response, it's amazing. They're saying it's the best record we've ever done. And I'm not saying this is true, but I've literally had 4 media people, pretty well-known media people, say they think this is the best rock or metal record of 24. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I really agree with that, but when you hear stuff like, you think, oh, okay, well then media hopefully will now finally open their arms and embrace this, kind of like you are, right? And mm-hmm. Realistically, our PR agents go, yeah, we talked to them. They're like, yeah, they really don't see it. You're not really that relevant to them. And, they'd rather talk about Metallica for the 5,000th time today, mm-hmm. And nothing against, and look, I love Lars and those guys, nothing against them. But so, like I say, this band for 30 plus years, we've had to fight, to be relevant and for the respect, even though we're really doing it for ourselves, and that's what it is. So that record cover is depicting that chaos and that, those forces that we have to battle against constantly. We're always in rough waters.
That's well, thank you for clarifying that, because probably like everybody else, I thought it was about the state of the world, the Middle East and Ukraine. But, Chris, I'm going to go backwards on the album in a sense. Like, I want to talk about the last track on the album, Just Another Day, because I feel my interpretation of the album is that song sets the tone for the theme of the album and the lyrics that follow, right? Just a lyric, just another day fighting my frustrations, just another day searching for salvation, just another day, one more distraction. And then you go back to the top of the album, and now you have your individual tracks that have, maybe different sub themes, right? You talked about War Machine. War Machine opens the album. You clarified that it's more about the band and not about the state of the world. But at the end of the day, it's still a kick-ass first song in the album. It's fast and catchy, great solo. Just comment on that one, opening the album.
Well, it was, it's interesting. I think that was one of the last songs Jacob Hansen mixed. He's our engineer, he's a well-known producer, engineer. And I remember when he finished it, he sent me an email immediately and goes, this song kicks ass. He goes, it's like, it was one of his favorites. And he goes, You know, he literally said, "Thank you so much for letting me mix this record. It's been a bucket list for a long time." Right. And so we thought, oh, this is a good opener, but just another day, as you say, right. It for me, it's like, you know, always looking for that salvation. People might view that as religious, which it's not intended to be that way. But for me, it's really about, you know, what we go through. Right. And how do we survive and how do we get to the next day? Right. But I'm sorry. And now going back to War Machine was just a kick-ass track. It just kind of spoke to us musically. It was there. It wasn't specifically just for the lyric, right? It was actually the power of the song. It set a mood or a tone of what's coming, right? If that makes sense. And a lot of people have really, that song has resonated with a lot of people. So I kind of feel like, oh, we should need to do a music video for that one too. We're definitely playing it live.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, again, it's hard to pick a track on the album that you say, wow, you know, that one's better than the other or whatever. I mean, a song like Hell on Earth, I mean, this is one of those ones. Again, it's maybe more around those themes of state of the universe, but this is one of those tracks where I say, oh my God, there's Paul's footprint right there. It's thrashy drumming, real heavy. It just complements so much with you and Rob. It's like, you know, if you guys were at an A, you went to an A++ with this.
I got to tell you something. You are really good. If you truly dissected that song and that was kind of like your dissertation, right, or your thesis on what that song is, you were brilliant. And I'll tell you why. That song was actually written for Paul. And when I say written for Paul, well, why? Because when we finally agreed, all right, we're going to do it together. We're going to make this record. You're coming in. He agreed, everything. I was in the studio, and at that point, you get that moment of like, okay, I know he's the right guy for this, but then I wrote that music with Rob and James, right, before Paul was in. So I thought, well, wait a minute, let me write one song, and I'm going to completely think about the way Paul plays. So I'm going to write to that imaginary character in my head. And so Hell on Earth, which, by the way, there will be a music video coming out, and I think it's on our release day of November 8th for Hell on Earth. We originally had a working title called Paul, Paul T or whatever we called it, right? And it was because we wrote that riff thinking about the way he plays drums, right? And thinking what would complement that and, you know, whatever. So that is Hell on Earth. So it's crazy that you actually went to that length or detail of realize, man, it just seems like the perfect song for his footprint. Because you obviously didn't know that.
No, but you know, well, thank you for the compliment. But it's like, again, I've dissected the album and I have the songs in certain buckets that I fear are categories, right? So the third in my first category, let's call it category A, is Power Grab, right? So this is your second single and video. You know, interesting content there, but it's got that classic power metal main guitar riff, and then, you know, that amazing like two-word chorus that just works so well in so many decades of metal songs back to the Dio era. You know, that two-word chorus, just it hits you right in the heart and it just makes you feel good. Now, this is a song where you look and you say, oh my God, that's Rob at his best right there.
Yeah, Rob Rock is, you know, I don't know what to say. I mean, Rob Rock he does not get the credit, or he doesn't get the glory in the media that he deserves. Because, I mean, look, if you love Dio and you love Halford and you love Dickinson and guys like that, how the hell can you not love Rob Rock? I mean, Rob Rock rivals those guys easily. You know, I mean, I knew Ronnie and I respect these guys immensely. I know Rob knows Bruce Dickinson, and, you know, Rob Rock he's just one of the greatest rock singers out there. The way you hear him sing on record, which a lot of people don't always get to see, he can do that night after night on stage live. Right. He can even go on stage sick, which I've seen him do, and still sound that great. Right. And you're like, it's genetics. It's just he has a natural gift. You know, you can't teach people to sing like that. He's just got that trait. And by the way, when you talk about Power Grab, so now that song, that does get political. I mean, making no holds about it. It's definitely Russia and Ukraine. Right. That's what that Power Grab is about. So, but he writes great lyric content. Sometimes you get what he means. Sometimes he's writing almost in parables where you're like, you have to kind of decipher it. But just, you know, he's got it all. And on this record, he shines, you know, and he's singing. I mean, you got to understand, we're getting older, man. And it's like, the older we get, technically the worst we should be. And somehow we seem to be getting better, you know? It's like we're reverting back to our 23-year-old selves, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's very, very true. It was funny. I was looking at your Instagram a week or two ago, and I noticed maybe a few months ago you posted this thing of your guitars, your Flying V from 1975, and I'm just like, wow, Chris has been at it that long, yet he's probably got a gazillion guitars in his hat, but he still loves those 1975 versions, right?
Yeah. Hey, careful, by the way. I didn't own the 1975 Gibson Flying V in 1975. It just happened to be the year of the Gibson Flying V that I liked, so I bought a bunch of them.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right, you're not a day over like me. We're 54 forever. But Chris, the next bucket of songs, well, there are two of them: "Out of My Mind," heavy metal, and then "Light 'Em Up," because they complement each other, right? Obviously, "Out of My Mind" was your first single.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not knocking the song, but it's got every heavy metal cliche you could ever imagine put in there. But I love it, and it seems like that one's done astonishing numbers for you. Let's say views on YouTube. And even in, again, my non-musician ear, I even picked up a little part of like towards the middle of the back end, like a little Deep Purple Rainbow style segment. I couldn't tell if it was Lazy or Speed King or something, but something's there and I picked up on it. And then you have Light It Up, which is, you know, equally important because it's about playing live, the connection with the fans and the bonds being at festivals or clubs around the world. It's just that connection between, you know, artists and audience, right?
Yes. And again, brilliant deciphering of these songs. So start with Out of My Mind. Out of My Mind shows you how artists, especially artists at least that we follow, how they can have an influence on you subconsciously. And I'll tell you what I mean. So when I wrote Out of My Mind, I was just playing and I was having fun and I had the guitar. I think I was detuning the low E string, but I was playing this riff in G and I thought, oh, this is really cool. Now, the master of all riffs in the key of G has always been Ritchie Blackmore of Rainbow and Deep Purple, right? Smoke on the Water, you got Highway Star, you got Burn, you got, I mean, I could go on as far as all these songs. And I was playing this riff. And before I knew it, the riff was leading me into a verse, then I had a pre-chorus, then a solo, and then a chorus idea, right, to celebrate the euphoric feeling we all get when we hear great heavy metal, or we're all united and we're hanging out in the downstairs basement playing great metal, you know, or we're at a party with our friends, or even at a concert, you know, that kind of vibe. And so we wanted to write a lyric that celebrated that unity when we're all together, right, whether it's at a metal concert or whatever. So it's an anthem. It was literally an anthem written for our fans, right? So that's why it's Out of My Mind. It really was Out of My Mind with heavy metal. With was just too long of a title. So anyways, where I'm going with that. So when I finished it, I listened back and, oh my God, that sounds like if Ritchie Blackmore did the song Burn in the year 2024 or 2025, it would sound very much like that. And the funny thing is, and this is, I'm being very serious about this, in no way was there any intent to copy, right, or plagiarize. It wasn't like I was saying, hey, I want to take that Burn riff and develop it. It just naturally happened. And there it shows you, you know, it's like, as an artist, I'm very much like a sponge. You know, if I hear something for 40 years, right, something great, it's going to influence me. It's going to reflect the way, you know, I guess I play, right? And subconsciously, those beautiful moments come out of me. And you'll go, oh my gosh, but I also thank our forefathers. You know, it's very much like, I guess, when you grow up as a child, you know, depending on what state you live in, right? I live in California, originally from Connecticut, and I find Connecticut and Californians, we all talk very similar. But you go to New York or New Jersey, you know, especially New York, or you know, go to places like,
I'm in Jersey, so I get it.
Yeah,
I'm in Jersey, Boston, I get it.
You know, Boston, Cab. It's like, wait a minute, you mean car?
They talk funny. They talk funny up there. You know,
but you
we're
know
all judgmental.
But you know, you don't come out of the womb talking like that, right? Eventually, you hear these people talking, and it kind of affects you. And I think, in many ways, as a guitarist, I'm not only am I an artist, right, and I have a band, and I know we have plenty of fans, but I'm also a fan, right? And I have my heroes that I still listen to, or that have rubbed off on me after hearing them for 40 years. And that, anyway, so where I'm going, long story short, that's a testament of sincere, you know, influence, and
Well,
what it brought out of us. So that's,
I mean, and again, the testament's there. 250,000 views on YouTube. That's no small numbers. I mean, amazing.
Yeah, you got to be careful of those YouTube numbers. So yeah, I think that video literally in the first 48 or 72 hours did 100,000 copies. I'm sorry, 100,000 views. Now I did see it. It's over 250,000, which is pretty good for the first 4 weeks or whatever. But I have a lot of my friends and I love these guys. So not saying anything negative, nor will I say their band names, but you see them, they got 40, 50 million views, 100 million views. Yeah. Someone told me, he goes, maybe you guys should buy one of those because there are software algorithms. You can pay money and you can generate millions of hits very easily, but it's not real. And I'm always like, why do you do that? You can't really, there's no metric. You can't really judge. Are you truly growing organically? It's like concert promoters wonder half the time why their bands can't fill up venues, because they're using these ridiculous statistics, right? Like, oh, he's got 100 million views. Does he really? Who is that? There's some girl, I don't know if she's a rapper, just came out recently, said something like her. I don't know if it was 100 million views or whatever. It was all bought. Sorry, but anyways, yes. As far as, and we don't do any of that. So the video hits so far, what we've seen from our historical numbers, it's like quadrupled. It's really good.
And then, again, back to Light It Up and a little bit about the song, but maybe more about what you mentioned at the top of the hour. It's always interesting for me, like we're Americans, you're an American artist, you lived on both coasts, but whereas you might be playing little tiny 300-seat clubs in the States, you can go over to Asia Pacific and play in arenas, or maybe over to Europe in the summers and play these bazillion fan festivals. So like, how does, is that just how you manage the career? You say, you know what, we go play wherever we're desired. And of course we have to make the money side of it work, but there are places that receive us differently. And that's going to be the place that we go to mainly.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, we're not a club band, and that's the problem in America, I'll give you an example. So, Japan, the first show we ever played as a band in Japan, right? Like major concert, was at the Tokyo Dome, and it was 65,000 people. Right now, we were playing with other artists. It was like a big festival, but that was our first kind of hurrah into the arena with this band, or that was more like stadium. And we played Japan. We definitely played large venues. It's funny, we did. Oh gosh, I may have told you last time. I think it was the first show we ever did outside of Japan in Asia, which was in Korea. And they brought us over. And I remember I've told people this story like 10 times. We were going over, and our bassist, James Pulley, had a problem with his visa and he couldn't go. And so I called my friend Rudy Sarzo, and Rudy Sarzo, we had played together, just finished a band out of Japan. And I called Rudy and said, hey, are you open? And I go, I need you for 5 days, about a week of rehearsal. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. So he learns all the music. We rehearse for a week and we go to Korea. Anyways, kind of talking about the oddity of our drawing power in different countries. We do our sound check, go back, do the dressing room thing, get dressed, stage clothes, all that stuff. And then me and Rudy and the band, we start walking. And as you're going up on these stages outside in these big venues, it's kind of like the walk of death. You never know when you get to that top step. And now you can see over the stage, you can see the audience. So they're going to be 2 people there, 1,000 people, whatever. We walk over and our head pops over that stair, and there were over 30,000 people that came to see us, and most people in America are going, Impellitteri, who? Is that a biological disease? And so it kind of shows you that in some countries, albeit here, no way we can do that in America. It'd be great if we could, but we can't. But in other countries, yeah, we can do that. And so we have focused a lot of our energy and attention on those markets, not because we don't love America, because we live here. Again, I live in California, so this is my home. Of course, I would love to be, come to an arena near you and bring our production and all of that stuff. And it's interesting. We are trying. I think people think that we don't, or that we're arrogant snobs and we just, we're beyond that. It's just not true. We would love to do it. But, the biggest problem we have, and forgive me, I'm probably going on a tangent, but, the biggest problem we have in America is that promoters they don't know what to do with us. We have agents, talking to them, and, they all come back to us and usually say, oh man, we know the band, or we checked out the band and we get the compliments. We love your band, blah, 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 blah. But you have no history. And we can't take a chance of putting you, whether it's in a 5,000 seat place, which is a big theater. They're definitely not putting us in arenas, right? So the conflict becomes, well, what do we do? If we were not proven and we can't get the promoters to take a chance on us, what are the options? They're not a lot. So we're trying to figure out a solution for this problem for America. We don't know what it is yet. Anyway,
well, Chris, it's interesting. Like, I go to a lot of concerts and see, newer bands and, the legacy bands and that kind of thing. But, in a sense, I don't like that this the feedback you're getting because, let's take the examples of, all right, I'll bring one up, Deep Purple played this past summer, right? They brought out Yes. Uriah Heep and Saxon were out in the spring, right? A lot of these bills, there's 2 co-headliners. A lot of times there's room for, let's say, a third support band. Yeah, maybe they only get 35 or 40 minutes. But a lot of times they go and pick these outlier bands that maybe don't fit the genre. And then there's those traditional metal and rock fans like myself that say, you know what? Like, all right, no disrespect, Metallica. You got Pantera with you. But why do you got to bring so-and-so that doesn't fit the 1, 2, 3 punch? Bring a band like Impellitteri to go with, these guys, so I think there's markets for you there. It's just a shame that, it would be great to see you like on a support act for Sammy Hagar that circled the country. Why can't Impellitteri get on there? Yet probably if you did that in Europe, you'd be on the bill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have problems like Europe. I mean, we get on the big festivals, right? And when we do that, the promoters put us very high on the bill. The last one we did, I think, was Barcelona, Spain, which was Rockfest. I remember Maiden were headlining. We were pretty far up the bill, not far from that. We've done, I remember we did, I think it was Sweden Rock Festival, and they had like 7 stages, and the main headlining stage at that show, I believe it was Black Sabbath, Journey, and Impellitteri. And it kind of shows you the testament that over in Europe, when they take us seriously and they want to, we get positioned properly, right? But I agree with you. It'd be great to do that. But, I don't know. I've heard some bands say, oh, I don't want to follow those guys. And that kind of, in some way, you're like, is that a backwards compliment? Kind of like, I don't want to take that. So, but, I promise we're trying. And look, I'm very aware that we have a lot of fans, or I hate the word fans, a lot of friends that like our music across the United States. And I can tell you, we've done warm-up shows before we go to Japan, like very secret, like in LA, for example. I remember years ago, we did the Whiskey, and I think we chose like, let's just do a Tuesday or Monday night. We're not going to announce it, just keep it under wraps. Because that way, as you're getting the kinks and the bugs out, which is a nice way of saying, if you suck, you don't do it in front of a lot of people. No one really knows about it, right? Anyways, so I remember going to sound check, and it was probably like, I don't know, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and no one's going to be there, right? And the drivers, they pull up getting close to the Whiskey, and there's a line going around the block and up the street, and it was just insane. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people had flown in to see us, from all these different states, and it was just like, how do you even know we're here? It was, anyways. But that to me kind of showed me, I think if we, went out and did this, yes, I think we would have some sort of interest to see the band.
Well, if there's anything we could do on the East Coast to help you guys, let us know. I keep in touch with Bethany Heavenstone, Graham Bonnet's spouse and bass player, and she and I chat all the time. And I'm always I'm ribbing her and saying, come on, Beth, you guys play in different parts of California. You go to Europe. Come on, where's the East Coast love? And she says, well, Walt, give me some venues in New York and New Jersey. Like, where would we play? And I said, okay, well, you got to give me specifics. What do you need? What kind of venue? What are your requirements? I'll help you get the names of the places. So John and I are funny. We always have this vision that someday we're going to have this master Metal Mayhem ROC like stadium show. We're going to have all our friends and favorites come on. So you make sure, Chris, that you're on the list.
Well, thank you very much. Look, I'll come and play. I mean, it's like, look, Jersey. I love Jersey. Remember, I grew up in Connecticut, which people don't realize. So, and our managers at the time, many, many years ago, I had a manager named John Scher. He was kind of a concert.
Oh, yes, of course, John Cher. I was part of the John Cher Ticket Club. Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, so John was my manager. He used to always take me to lunch, and I'd go out to his place in Montclair, New Jersey, which is where we had the office, But anyways, his band, the Cranberries, did better than we did, so they got more love.
I actually lived 20 minutes from Montclair. I went to college there a bazillion years ago, right in Montclair, so I know Montclair well.
Nice.
Know Montclair well. Yeah. So again, Chris, this is great, but let's get back to the album. A couple more tracks I wanted to ask you about. Super Kingdom, because I feel like this is like there's always a little outlier track in a good way, and I feel like this is it. It's kind of got a groovy feel, these cool melodic passages, and it's probably about like AI, of course, but I love Rob's lyric. All that glitters will never be gold, right? That says you can't take the human factor out of life. John and I see it all the time in the work we do. We interview artists like you. In post-production, it's very easy to just throw an episode through and let it do the work for you, but does it tell the story, and does it give the feel of the conversation as you're, let's say, writing up the recap? It doesn't. It's just an aid. It doesn't replace humans.
That's right, because it doesn't have a soul. Artificial intelligence and our song AI Super Kingdom, it's funny, that's actually Paul Bostaph's favorite song. It was written about, inevitably, does machine take over the human race, right? Is artificial intelligence going to eventually trump humanity, right? It's man versus machine. It's kind of like that. And AI, as you know, it's evolving and it has great purposes, especially in medical. But then there's also a danger what it can do, especially think about our what we do, right? If AI writes a song, right? You can polish it up, you can make it sound like another artist, but will it truly inherently have that soul and that true artistic expression of the original artist? And the answer is no, right? Yeah. All that glitters is not gold, kind of like something to that effect. Yeah. That's kind of the perfect example, right? Here's this beautiful, shiny, finished product, right? Sparkly, glittery, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's something wrong with it. And it, right? So, anyways, that's kind of what we're going after on that track. And also, for me, it's like in music, we've embraced technology, everybody. Even though we're a band that we go into the major recording studio so we can track live and have the big room and use all the vintage consoles and the mics, but everything we're recording to is going directly into a computer, theoretically, digitally, right? And in there, then they can make enhancements, right? Like, oh my gosh, the guitars and bass are huge. Now we may have to add a digital sample for the kick drum, right? To make the kick drum sound a little bit bigger so it conforms with everything. That's somewhat artificial, right? And so all of that's being implemented even today. So even though we're talking negatively towards the repercussions of artificial intelligence, same time we're embracing it.
Yeah,
I think we just called ourselves hypocrites.
Well, hey, listen, it doesn't matter what line of work you're in or what field you're in. The theory applies to everybody there. So exactly the point.
Yeah.
Chris.
Hey, John, I was going to say one thing. I'm so sorry. The important thing about the lyrics, Joe, I want to let you know is Rob Rock writes the lyrics. I don't. I'm the guitar player. I write the music. So I always tell people, in-depth questions on lyrics are great. Ask Rob. It's kind of like, because intrinsically, he tells me what he's writing about, right? We always have that theme, right? And so we share that. But really, when you really get into the depth of what he's trying to say, he's the guy to ask. I'm the guitar player. I write the guitar player. He writes the vocals.
In 2 years from now, when you put out your next masterpiece, we're going to have to make sure we get both of you guys on so we have you in a room together. That would be the next level, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hey, Chris, a couple other songs. Beware the Hunter. I love this one because it's heavy. It's more of that great Paul drumming, big triumphant guitar solo. This is like a headbanging track. And again, another one of those where less is more. The one word Hunter chorus fits nicely. And then there's the new single that just got released as we're recording this, Wrathchild. You got a new single and video, lots of fast drumming there. And again, just that whole, you will be the Wrathchild, like just fits so well. And
Yes.
what I like about that one is like the 1, 2, 3 drum beat that ties to the vocal. Bum, bum, bum. It's just good stuff, man.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we just released the video. I don't know, like, was it yesterday? And so we're getting a lot of traction on that track. It's an aggressive song. It reminds me almost a bit of the band Megadeth. It's a bit thrashy, but it's really fun. The guitar solo is a blast to play as a guitar player. And that song lyrically, it's interesting because, and by the way, let's talk about the title for a sec. Because hopefully, and I mean hopefully, it will come out so people get it. It's like, duh, who influenced that title? I always remember, and I always was a fan of Maiden. And God rest his soul, poor Paul Di'Anno, we just lost. Great, great singer who's always going to remember, in the history books of metal as just one of the greats, But as a kid, Maiden used to scare the crap out of me with those record covers. And me and my friends used to always be like, what the hell's a Wrathchild? What does that even really mean, right? And
right.
So when we were writing this song, believe it or not, we weren't thinking about Maiden. It was just like, we were talking about this child who was kind of misled and obsessed by greed and power and manipulated, right? And inevitably, he turns that scenario upside down and is able to instill a wrath upon those forces, right, that misled him in life, And so we kind of went, oh, my God, it's the child, right, who's now putting the wrath upon these evil forces that influenced him and, it just misled him, put him down the wrong path, right, in life. And now he's getting vengeance. And we went, oh, Wrathchild. And then I went, oh, shit, we can't call this song Wrathchild. That's a Maiden. But then I thought, wait a minute, that is the coolest nod to Maiden. If we didn't, right, then no one would ever know. So this way it gives me the ability to say, hey, man, there's that influential band. Thank you. And here's our nod.
Well, I like that. It's the backstory, but not really about the song. So I like that too. It ties it all together.
That's
clever.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. It became our version of what the hell is this Wrathchild? And now we know, at least from our perspective. Right.
Well, and anytime you're going to see that word pop up in a song for hard rock or metal, you're going to assume, okay, Maiden, but everybody has the liberty to use the same title and about a different song. It's okay, right?
Well, it's funny. Here's one. Here's a subconscious one. So when I was doing the interviews, it was the band. Not band. I'm so sorry. I forgot the interviewer. But anyways, the title of our record, War Machine. Someone remind me that's a Kiss song.
Yes.
Never even thought about that. It never even crossed my mind, and now I remember, oh yeah, I know that song. It's a cool tune, but yeah, it had absolutely nothing to do with the title. So, I guess, look, I mean, at this point on Earth, it's like every word, everything has been used at least once or twice. It's the same thing with music. It's a lot of times it's very difficult to not have repeated something. I mean, as soon as you tune your instrument to A440, your, EADGBE, whatever, you're technically replicating what someone created before you, our forefathers. So it's more and more difficult to not have something in a song or a title or a word or something that hasn't been used at some point,
Exactly. Fun fact about War Machine. I don't know if you're aware, but Bryan Adams, the pop rock Canadian singer, was the one who wrote War Machine. And earlier this year, he released his version of the song, which, maybe he just recorded it this year. So a little fun fact about War Machine.
Yeah. Hey, fun fact about Bryan Adams. Years ago, I was in Japan and I was on the cover of some guitar magazine. It was their big musician magazine. And Bryan Adams was literally there 20 minutes before me doing an interview with this magazine. And it's funny, I walk in and they're talking and we were talking about technique, being obsessed with guitar technique and not thinking about good songwriting, right? And so anyways, I said, oh, and Bryan just said to say hi to you, Chris. And they point down to the magazine cover and said, and Bryan points down to the guitar magazine before he's leaving. He goes, and remember, tell Chris the song comes first. Then the solo. So I thought, that's
funny.
a great Bryan Adams story. Yeah, so
that actually is funny. That's good. That's good. So, Chris, there's other tracks on the album, but what is touring going to look like for you? I mean, I would love to see you somewhere in the tri-state area, and let's fingers crossed that happens next year. But what do you guys got planned for next year to support the album?
The offers, because we just released the record, the offers now are coming in. So we've already just got offers right now for Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, those parts of Japan, some dates in other parts of Asia. We just agreed to work with an agent in Europe, which is really the first time we're truly embracing an agency, right? That is pretty well established. So they're going to work on all the big festivals and a full European tour. And then also we're talking with agents in America. But to be honest, it's the same problem we're having right now. You know, albeit when they're hearing this new record, their ears are at least pricked up, you know. They're saying something's going on here. But again, for them, it's always about money, and I get it. So we're trying. We are definitely trying to get it. If we can make it happen, I promise I will make it happen. I would love to play New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, all those areas in the East Coast. And, of course, Midwest, L.A. here, my hometown, you know, all of that. So, yeah.
Well, we'll see. If not, then we'll have to go on the road and see you guys. I've done that before. Where I said, you know what, I can't see them here, so I'm going to have to go see them there. And sometimes stranger things have happened, right?
Is that like one of those bands where you do the Vegas residency?
Hey, listen, I've gone to a couple of European festivals by myself just to go, because why the hell not? My wife and kids say, all right, fine, go. You want to go to Sweden by yourself? Go.
That's
you know,
great.
You're crazy, but why not? You know, so.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened. But Chris, catch us up on your socials. Where can the fans find about the album? Where can they buy it? When does it come out? And all that kind of good stuff.
Well, sure. I mean, most of the information on the band you can find at impellitteri.net. It's like the official band webpage. The socials, you know, look, we're dinosaurs. We never really embraced that. Our Facebook page got stolen and taken down about a year ago. So there is no Facebook page at the moment. I don't know if people still use Facebook or not. I thought that was kind of fading out, but I have an Instagram page. Rob Rock has Facebook and Instagram. We're getting yelled at by some of our business friends that we need to redo that. So we'll create a new Facebook page and we'll start embracing the band pages. But right now I'm on Instagram under my normal name. I don't know what the address is, but you can find me out there, I'm sure.
Okay.
Same thing with Rob, and Paul Bostaph has his own page. So, you know, we're out there, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be on the lookout for more videos to come and all that kind of good stuff. So, Chris, has been great catching up on the new album and seeing you again. So just as a reminder, head over to metalmayhemrods.com and sign up for our newsletter, as it's the best way to stay updated on new podcast episodes and interviews like this. And join us for our radio shows live on Monday nights on Metal Devastation Radio. And, of course, if you like what we're doing, we'd love to hear about it. So leave us a review to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. So for today, my guest, who's just starting in his morning in California. So, Chris, have a great rest of your day. Chris Impellitteri, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.